Jonathan Lee Riches investigates. I am covering the Moscow, Idaho Bryan Kohberger case. Let's talk about Bethany Funke and Dylan Mortensen. Witness intimidation, witness tampering. The prosecution in this case, William Thompson, filed a brief about cameras in the courtroom when it comes to the Moscow, Idaho case. And he said something very interesting I want to share with all of you in this motion. Check it out. The state also has the following concerns about allowing broadcasting or photographing at the trial in this case. The state has a number of sensitive witnesses who would likely be intimidated, harassed, or harmed by a live broadcast of the trial. Number one there. Let me know what you think. William Thompson said the state would most likely have sensitive witnesses that could likely be targeted, harassed, threatened, harmed by having live cameras in the courtroom. What does that all mean? Because that's interesting, because it makes me think three things: witness intimidation, witness tampering, and basically the gag order itself. If it got lifted, what would these sensitive witnesses be subjected to? Dylan Mortensen, Bethany Funke in particular. Let me tell you a little bit of something about witness intimidation and what that actually means. Witness intimidation takes many forms, including implicit threats, looks, or gestures, explicit threats of violence, actual physical violence, property damage. Threats, looks, gestures, actual violence, property damage. Like, we haven't really talked about if the gag order got lifted or if there is cameras in the courtroom for this case and Dylan Mortensen or Bethany Funke want to testify, or it's known that they're going to testify. What could happen to them beforehand, considering that the gag order was just in play, right? And there's a small group of people out there that think Bryan Kohberger is innocent. Well, what about those people that for some reason think that he is innocent, would do something to Bethany Funke or Dylan Mortensen if it was known that they were going to testify in this case? Would they go to their houses and do some sort of vandalism or throw a rock through their window or spray paint their house? Bryan is innocent. I hope that doesn't happen, but it could be a possibility. Or they walk down the street and a supporter of Bryan Kohberger or someone that thinks Bryan is innocent confront Dylan or Bethany while they're just going about their everyday life, because this is a public interest case and the whole world is watching. And there's people out there that might not want them to testify. And we're not even talking about the Bryan Kohberger defense or Bryan Kohberger himself intimidating them if he knows that they're going to testify. And that's another scenario too. That's a possibility too. But, you know, these witnesses are sensitive, and the prosecution has an obligation to protect them, to keep them safe. So I can understand their position in a sense of having cameras in the courtroom, maybe not filming them or showing their faces, and understand the sense why people might want a gag order. If you think about it, what about witness tampering? What about witness tampering? What are some examples of witness tampering? Offering a bribe to a witness, making threats to a witness or their family with physical harm or property damage, using or attempted to use of physical violence to cause injury or kill a witness, asking a witness to not provide testimony or to testify in a specific way. Same sort of thing, like threats of violence, intimidation in a sense, but also bribing. There could be people out there that says, don't testify against Bryan Kohberger. I'll give you money. I'll give you money. Or try to bribe them to say the wrong stuff. That's a serious matter, and it does happen when it comes to public cases and high-profile cases. You have people that have no connection to the case whatsoever that will actually try to reach out to some of these witnesses and say, you better not say this about Bryan when you're on the stand. Bryan Kohberger is innocent. Or somebody might say, you better convict Bryan Kohberger. Dylan Mortensen, Bethany Funke, you better tell the truth. You better convict them. It can go both ways. It could go witness intimidation to get them to convict Bryan Kohberger and to say, you better say this, even if it wasn't even true. Say it like this or else. That is kind of examples of witness intimidation, witness tampering, and it could be a potential problem. So I understand the prosecution's point of view in this particular instance. What do you think? What do you think about Dylan and Bethany? Maybe they've already been threatened. I tried to find out via a public records request if there has been any police reports on Dylan in her town where she made, because I'm assuming that she's watching what people are saying about her. Maybe possibly somebody went to her house. We saw a picture of her where the Daily Mail was taking a photograph of her while she was allegedly out there at Starbucks or jogging or whatnot. But those type of things, that could maybe be an example of witness intimidation or witness tampering. Not necessarily. It'd probably be more in line in stalking and stuff. But they are also in the sense of they're in the public figures. So people do want to watch and see them and see what they're up to or what they're saying. But witness tampering, witness intimidation, it could be a problem with this case, particularly those two young, vulnerable, young college girls. They didn't sign up for this. I'm sure they don't want this. They don't want to go and be in the spotlight because they have pretty much deleted their social media accounts or put it on private for friends only. They don't. It's not like some people. Sometimes there's witnesses that love that moment, that love to be in that spotlight. But it doesn't seem like that's the case with these two. Maybe that's why the prosecution filed that motion. What do you think? Subscribe to my channel, hit the notification button. Thinking of scenarios. If this goes to trial, I'm still not sure if it goes to trial, but if it does go to trial, will Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funke testify? And I think so. And will the prosecution do their best to protect these vulnerable witnesses? We'll talk soon. Everyone be safe. Justice for the victims and their families. Check out my Moscow, Idaho playlist. Everyone be safe. God bless.